Hello and welcome to Prairie Post. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we'll meet a family from Warroad, Minnesota who makes toboggans. But first, joining me now is Scott Ecker, the activities coordinator with Access of the Red River Valley. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, John.
As we get started, tell folks a little bit about yourself and maybe your background, where you're from.
Yeah, I've been in Fargo for going on 26 years here, and I've been with Access of the Red River Valley since about 2011, so about 6 years.
Now, tell us then, what is Access to the Red River Valley?
Yep, Access of the Red River Valley is a nonprofit organization that provides staffing, housing, activities for individuals with disabilities. We're centered in Moorhead, but we service people throughout a few counties in Minnesota. Now,
how many employees do you have?
Right now we're at about 118, but would be great if we could get that up to about 130. 180 is great.
Well, as we were discussing before we were taping this, you said there's a high turnover in this.
Yeah, it's a tough field. Minnesota pays less than North Dakota does for this type of service, so we're always up against competing organizations across the river. And the state of Minnesota has not been very good about increasing our rates. We get a lot of the money from the state. So through cuts over the years and just kind of a general stigma towards working with people with disabilities, we don't get as many people coming in. And then a lot of our employees are college students and things that are change jobs a lot.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Moorhead. So do you just serve clients only in Moorhead, or do you have a wider service area?
Yep, we do some casework for people, you know, up to Glendon and that area. Have a client who lives we have people live in Dilworth and some other nearby cities.
And of course, when you say this, there are other organizations that obviously serve their own markets or other. Okay.
Every community needs several organizations like Access.
Sure, sure. Now, how are you funded?
Yeah, we're funded through the state of Minnesota, but we also get grants, and I'm the activities coordinator, so a lot of the fun things that I provide for the clients, so zoo trips and Christmas parties, picnics, things like that, that comes from donations and fundraisers.
Well, can you talk about your philosophy or the company's philosophy of dealing with people with developmental disabilities?
Yeah, I've definitely seen a person-first approach at Access, where we try to staff our clients one-on-one because that allows them to be themselves instead of being in a home with, you know, up to 6 other clients with one staff. It allows more of a personal touch. And so we get to know who they are, and we get, if a client likes to go, you know, to the airport, we don't have to worry about other clients not wanting to do that. We can just take him there.
Mm-hmm. Now, how many clients do you serve currently?
About right now, I would say we have around 20 corporate foster care clients, and then maybe about 15 in-home service clients. And in addition to that, we provide casework for students who are still in school and need some help coordinating their plans with the teacher.
So I guess I was trying to do a little math. So what's the ratio that you have to have employees versus a client to serve a client?
Yeah, well, clients can have different shifts. So some receive 24-hour care. Those would be the corporate foster care clients who we house and provide staff for whenever they're home. And then in-home service, they still live with their parents or maybe have their own apartment and don't need staff all the time. So the ratio would be, I guess I've never thought about it that way. We have, I'd say for a corporate foster care site, you want at least 15 staff because they can be very long shifts, and you need a break and can only work 40 hours a week.
Yeah, okay. But obviously it depends on the situation, it sounds like.
Yes, there's multiple situations for our clients.
Sure, absolutely. Well, can you talk about the various complexes and sort of living quarters you have in and around Moorhead and what you utilize?
Yep, I'd say of our corporate foster care clients, we've have maybe up to 10 of them living in apartments, and then we have several houses that we own. We built a triplex, maybe almost 10 years ago, so we can house up to 9 clients in there. And then we have a twin home that we built about 5 years ago. So there's 2 clients that live on one side of that, 2 clients that live on another.
Okay. And you said a triplex, duplexes, and obviously the situations just depend on the level of care they need.
Yeah, we had a client who for years had been living in a 2-story home where there wasn't anything on the first floor, and just over time needed more handicap accessible housing. So we were able to move him in recently to the twin home, and that's been a great fit and a great thing to offer him.
Okay. Well, now, I understand too, you have a learning center. Can you tell me about that?
So at our triplex, we have, it's basically a large recreation room, and that's open around 25 hours a week as just a free location for clients to come. I work there myself 2 days a week. I wouldn't change that for the world. And the Learning Center provides, we've got events, board games, video games, computers, outdoor equipment, a basketball hoop, arts and crafts. It's tough finding things for clients to do around town because it's important to be active, but the community isn't always the most welcoming. So a place where they can work on social skills, be themselves, but also not have to worry about money. I work with a lot of organizations around town to get free passes or discounts for our staff and our clients, but money can be a big concern because clients don't always have a lot of extra spending money. So providing a center where they can come, they're familiar with, they have friends there, I've seen that play a big role in our clients' lives.
I understand. Can you talk about maybe when you expanded into helping younger people with disabilities, and when did that occur?
Yeah, I would say about the 90s. Access has been around since the early 80s. It was started by a group of parents who didn't want their children to go into institutional care. So it kind of started with these parents providing services for their children, and then expanded into providing service for other people in the area.
Yeah, and obviously the differences there. Are these minor children you're talking about?
It can vary. So some of our clients, a lot of the adults we have now started when they were children. Okay. So we provide, straight through adulthood with whatever they need.
Can you talk about maybe compare and contrast how people with disabilities were treated years ago, and essentially when did that start changing? Because basically, I think the common practice was just sort of lock them away.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, the institutional care is what the parents wanted to avoid. That sort of impersonal service, just keep them away from society. I'd say the early 80s is when it started to change, but it's a process that's always changing. In Minnesota, we're not allowed to provide restraints anymore. That used to be a common practice where if a client was acting up, you could just put them in a hold, and that's a terrifying thing that a lot of clients still hold with them as, it's dehumanizing. So we're always learning and improving, and thankfully we're a long ways away from that type of care.
Yeah, but you said they changed for the better. I mean, you said 80s. Was it just that recent, or did it change any before that? I mean,
there's, I'd say it. Yeah, it would have gone up till the 80s.
Yeah.
And the care, still isn't great everywhere. There's a long waiting list for a lot of people with disabilities to receive services, just because there's only so much money to go around. So I think that's the next step, making it more accessible to anyone who needs it.
Yeah. Can you talk about some of the success stories you've had?
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, I work at the Learning Center, and so I get to be one-on-one with the clients, and a lot of them I've seen grow with that experience. So we had a client who moved in a few years ago who couldn't say much, not not much experience speaking, pretty nonverbal, just a few words here and there. And a case manager stopped by the Learning Center once, and the client asked him, you know, would you like to play with me? And this case manager was shocked because he'd never seen the client be assertive that way with his language. So, you know, the client has learned, you know, what you say to a person, what the process of interacting is. There's a client that I have who, when I started working with him, the main goal was getting him out of the house. Just real homebody, wouldn't leave, wouldn't do anything, and you know, would just hole up in his room, play video games, and over the years been able to provide, you know, okay, he likes to go to movies, so we went to a movie every Saturday. He likes basketball, play basketball, then started getting him to go to the Learning Center where he's a regular now. So we've seen a lot of, and it's always changing, you know, even if a client is in their 40s and they're pretty set in their ways, I've seen them show up and try things that they haven't before.
You know, we talked about your employees and some turnover there. You know, are people are going to school and then looking for this as a job opportunity? Are they being trained for this?
Sometimes we have some good relationship with special education programs who want to get their students learning in an environment like this, but it's not something a lot of people see as a career, or just even a job they'd be interested in. You don't tend to see a lot of direct cares, you know, out in the community because they're not trying to be noticed. You know, they're just there for the client. So I think that a lot of people aren't aware that this is a good job. Like I've been with Access for 6 years. You know, did retail before that, the food industry, and this, just me personally, provided me a way to be creative and have a personal connection with people that I work with.
Mm-hmm. Sure. You know, you've mentioned corporate foster care a few times. Can you really say, what does it mean, and explain it again?
Yep. So corporate foster care is when we house a client if they need 24-hour care, or even if they have some alone time, but they just need a place to stay. So if a client is working towards independence, but they still need the staff to help them with medication, transportation, basic personal cares, that's what we provide. So we have a good portion of our work is for those corporate foster care clients who, you know, they're learning how to live on their own with what they're able to do.
And you mentioned you had how many corporate foster care clients?
Yeah, about 20.
About 20 of those. Okay. All right, let's turn to something that people may not understand. Can you explain to the layperson what Rule 79 is?
Yeah. So we have 2 Rule 79 case managers who work with younger clients who they're in school, so they might not need staffing because they're still young and they're living with their parents, but they need someone to manage their caseload at school. So our Rule 79 case managers, they go to meetings with them, they you know, work on understanding the medication, communicating with the teachers. So it's just managing a caseload without needing to provide staff for a client.
Yeah, and so how many clients fall under Rule 79?
And that's out of my my area. It can vary.
Okay, well, sure. Talk about, you talked about your funding. Can you expand on that? Can people donate? Or?
Absolutely. Our website is accessrrv.org, and we've got a donation page there. We'll always accept anything. We do a lot with Give to the Max Day during November. Our annual golf tournament is a big fundraiser for activities, and that's coming up on Tuesday, August 8th. So look for on our Facebook page and our website for information on that.
Well, now, you said, when I asked you how you were funded, can you give me a little more breakdown between the state funding donation funding, like percentages, or how that works?
Yeah, most the care, the staffing, that comes from the states. So when the state cuts the budget for a field like ours, then there's less money to pay the staff and provide housing for clients. The activities that I do, that's stuff that we have to make up ourselves with those fundraisers.
Okay, but with that said, then does the majority of your funding, well, it is probably your personnel, so the majority comes from the state?
Yes.
Okay. Talk about significant differences you said between your organization and other organizations that serve developmentally disability people.
Yeah, I'd say that our difference is that our size. We're a smaller organization, so it's easy to kind of have a more personal connection when you work there or when you're a client. So I know all of our clients personally, and I get to know all of our staff. It was pretty easy moving up to the office from being direct care because you just get to know everybody. It's easy to get your voice heard and have play a role in the way the company goes.
Yeah, but you said you know all your employees, and that's good. You should. But 118. How many of those are full time? How many part time? How does that break down?
About 20 full time. We have about 10 to 15 in the office right now, and then maybe only 20 more are full-time direct care staff. So most of our direct cares are just a few shifts a week or something like that.
And with this, where do you see your organization and organizations like this who are working with the disabled, where do you see it going in the future?
There's always a need for this type of service. It's not anything that's going to go away, and that's something we've seen over time where like the life expectancy in the 80s for a person with Down syndrome was about age 30. Now it's age 80. So it's something that people really need to invest in for the future. My boss always says that we're all one car accident away from needing a service like this, and I've seen that where we have clients who might have a traumatic brain injury or something, and suddenly they need care. So in the future, there's still going to be a big need for organizations like Access, but are we investing in that? I'm not seeing a lot of that, and I think that people need to be more involved in following the politics of it. We've got Kent Eakin in Minnesota is a great advocate for organizations like ours, but we need to make the politicians, take us more seriously and invest more.
Yeah. Now, do you take volunteers with your organization?
I do at the Learning Center sometimes. I would honestly just rather them apply for a job because that's where the need is right now.
Yeah. So then, if people want more information or they'd like to get involved, where can they go? Who can they contact?
Yep. Again, our website is accessrrv.org, and then we have a Facebook page that I update very regularly. You can see a lot of fun pictures of our clients at the Learning Center and doing other things in the community. So we're on Facebook at Access of the Red River Valley, on Twitter. So any information can be found there.
Well, Scott, thanks so much for joining us today, and thank you for what you and your organizations do for our communities.
Thank you very much for helping us reach a larger audience. We need that.
Okay. Stay tuned for more. The Herron family in Warroad, Minnesota are one of the very few toboggan manufacturers left in the world. They craft well-made toboggans that are sold in Canada and the northern United States. Low-end toboggans can sell for less than $400, while high-end freight toboggans can cost around $1,300. As you'll see in this profile, the phenomenal craftsmanship makes them worth every cent.
When I started, there was an older German in Hay River, Northwest Territories was making them, and another guy in Saskatchewan, and then Sheboygan. but for people that would make them in any quantities that, you know, could be distributed to a store or, you know, have a supply dealer, yeah, there's just been a few of us. The one we worked on today, once all the parts are made, just assembling the toboggan, maybe an hour and a half. Bigger toboggans, thinking like 8 hours, somewhere in there. But then you have to figure in making those parts, you have to figure in selecting lumber, planing it, tapering it, bending it, and then sanding, finishing, and packing it, or put the ropes on, packing for shipment. Both Jack and Gabe, when they were in high school, you know, they started carpentering in the summer and then they worked in the shop here. And I always kid them, just when they were starting to get pretty good at toboggans, they took off and went to college.
More and more, every time I make a toboggan with my dad, I pick up oh, that's what the decision he just made, or that's why we're doing it this way versus another way. So I've got an appreciation for just the craftsmanship that goes along with making a toboggan, and that's what sets it apart from anything else that I've been involved with. I think one of the most rewarding things with this business is just understanding and getting the opportunity to really connect with every customer we have.
That would probably be, I don't know what we call it, the traditional market, people who use toboggans for subsistence in their way of life. And then we have a recreational size toboggans, which would be the toboggans that you might have grew up with as a kid.
Whether it's the Aboriginals up north or whether it's somebody that has a cabin in a remote area that's using our toboggan to haul supplies to, it seems like every toboggan we sell, there's a little bit of a story behind it. We had an opportunity this summer to visit some of our long-standing customers that year after year have purchased toboggans. It's really neat. I mean, they really rely on the toboggan for their way of life.
This one and that order out there is going to go to Winnipeg on Wednesday. And it'll go by truck from Winnipeg to Edmonton. And then it'll get on a truck and it'll go on the ice road up to Colville Lake, Northwest Territories. It's about 500 miles north of Yellowknife.
The caribou migrate across the north, and it's a main source of food for a lot of the communities that still are in existence. So what they do is they'll travel with large groups with several toboggans. These days, typically with snow machine, what used to be dog teams, and they follow the caribou herds and they harvest a lot of caribou and they dry the meat and they haul their supplies and haul the caribou with their toboggans.
I don't know, I've said before that, and I think it's true, that there's no place in the world where a winter sled is tested like it is in northern Canada, because it's the way of life. They've been doing it for thousands of years.
I was in contact with all of our customers who had purchased a toboggan this winter. And I just sent them some general information, just checking in. And it was so exciting to hear their feedback. Just fun. They said they are having so much fun. They love it. Oh, I think there's definitely room for growth. It's been exciting, and I think we have ideas. Every day we have a different idea, and it's how to take those ideas and move them forward in a manageable and timely way.
Now the feeling that I have after doing this for 22 years that I'm going to be able to sell toboggans up north for as long as I want to make them. And I think people up there would appreciate it if we get somebody else making them. More than one have told me they've tried every kind of sled up there, and you know, the wooden toboggan is superior to all of them. This year was a pretty good year. A lot of big toboggans in Canada. The Canadian dollar has been really weak in the last couple of years, which isn't helping. There's some folks up there heard they'll put like 15,000 kilometers a season. Like, you know, this summer we'll probably start making inventory of our smaller toboggans, so we have those in stock. And then maybe do some inventory of the bigger ones that we know, or if we get some orders.
I mean, one of the challenges we have is continue to produce the toboggans with the experience and the lack of somebody working hands-on with my dad. So this year we've added a couple of people to our team to help learn the process and learn and to kind of become apprentice.
You're always going for quality, something that's gonna last and work. One thing that we're doing that's making a difference is doing that more, maybe more the last few years than in the past, was paying more attention to the moisture of the oak before we bend it. But you put some toboggans up there that aren't going to last, they're going to have faults, and everyone will know of it. But there we have it.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Pulse for this week. But as always, thanks for watching.
Funding for Minnesota Legacy programs are provided by a grant from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. And by the members of Prairie Public.